privileged to do. And the appearance here is that you have something to hide. I submit to my colleagues on the committee, we need to know what the grand jury testimony is. We need access to that second volume. And you have no objection to our seeking it, but you won't tell us, even in a classified confidential setting. I think that position is disqualifying.
That was days of testimony years ago. I don't have the ability to recollect.
Well, you can refresh your recollection with access
the
to the
transcript.
Let me ask you another topic. And I really regret that you won't cooperate with us on the grand jury testimony. Would you object to the firing of the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz?
Would I object to it? That's the providence for the Attorney General to make. It's not something I would participate in.
But you know of his work. It's been bipartisan, very thorough, competent, objective, impartial. He has been critical in Republican and Democratic administration. Won't you object to his firing?
I think he's done a great job, but it's not up to me to decide who stays and goes at the Department of Justice.
But I'm not asking you to make the decision. I'm asking you whether you will take a stand, speak up, stand up in favor of a watchdog who has helped preserve the integrity of the Department of Justice and aligned himself against waste and fraud and abuse.
If the Attorney General asked me, yes, for my opinion.
Volunteered. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What's up, folks?
Mr. Patel, I want to continue on a
Kash Patel confirmation
brief topic
hearing.
I mentioned earlier and one that we discussed in my office when you came to visit in December, and that is Redstone Arsenal and the FBI assets and the men and women that will report to you when confirmed.
Shout out to
that are
RSBN.
there in Huntsville, Alabama.
Shout out to Kash Patel.
I really want you to come and visit with me. The state-of-the-art facilities that we have there are pretty incredible. I mean, when you look across the board, we have the ballistics research facility, the hazardous device school, we have TDAC, which is the terrorist explosive device analytics center. And last but not least, obviously, what is sometimes referred to as Headquarters South. We have the sprawling north and south campus of the FBI. Look, there has been over $4 billion invested there. It is truly remarkable that the training that is going on there. They are delivering to missions when it comes to emerging technologies, investigating lead generation, security, and contracts personnel and human resources, just to name a few. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time in my 3 minutes to dive into all of the incredible work that's doing there, but just want to reiterate that the workforce occupying these facilities, they were moved from DC to Huntsville. They are working diligently each and every day to make sure that men and women in uniform are the best trained, equipped, and ready that there is. And I would love a commitment from you just to come with me to visit those facilities, see what those men and women are doing, what they're learning, and all of the training that's right there at their fingertips.
Senator, you have that commitment, and this is a great example, real quick, of the FBI's capabilities and infrastructure systems around the country that already exist to the tune of billions.
Billions.
And not only is it, I believe, a 38,000-acre sprawling campus, this Congress billeted 2,500 seats, but 4,000 seats still remain open. So let's go to work. I'll come to Alabama and let's fill those seats.
Absolutely. I love it. I love to hear that. And another thing, too, obviously, as we've looked over the last couple of years, I'll put on my appropriator hat. The budget, obviously, for the FBI has been decreased. Obviously, you're going to help us return America's trust in the FBI. But as we look at that and we try to make those numbers work, I just want on your radar, I want you to be thoughtful about this. You know, it's easy to say, let's cut training. That's an easy thing to cut first. I think that that's the worst thing that we can do. We want to make sure that our men and women are ready, that they're ready to find leads that lead to child trafficking rings and other things. And you've talked about the rapes, the fentanyl overdoses, the murders. We want to make sure that we are equipping them with all the tools necessary to make those strides for the American people. And so just want your commitment from you that as we look at those things, that you will take a good look at training and make sure that that's not the first thing that gets cut.
Absolutely. High standards and merit. That's
Thank you
we'll
so
do.
much.
I like that lady. She's nice. She seems like
Thank
the
you,
nicest
Mr.
of them all.
Chairman. As we talked about, Mr. Patel, truth incredibly important in an FBI director, and a number of the things I asked you about in the first round you didn't recall or you wanted more context. I'm going to give you one of those. I'll give you the rest on the record. That was about when I asked you about the Capitol Police officers who testified in the January 6 hearings and you accused them of lying. You said, and I quote, "I don't think that's accurate." I actually have the transcript here, which was reported by the Washington Post. And that was in March of 2024 on Joe Pack's podcast. He asked you, the Capitol Police in that fake January 6th committee, they didn't tell the truth, did they? Patel, no, not just them, many others. And lying under oath is a federal offense and they should be investigated for it. Do you believe that about the police officers?
That's a general statement and a mischaracterization of what I said. I encourage you to read the rest of the interview. This is why snippets of information are often misleading and detrimental to this committee's advice and consent process.
If you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions and then I could read the whole transcript.
You've got 2 minutes.
Wow. In September, you referred to the FBI's intel branch, which was stood up after 9/11 and works to protect us from foreign adversaries like China as, quote, the biggest problem the FBI has had, unquote. And you said you wanted to, quote, break that component out of the FBI. It was the same sentence where you said about turning the FBI headquarters into a museum. Do you really think that closing the intel branch will make Americans safer?
Again, it's not what I said. The intelligence component of the FBI has seen some politicization and weaponization that we've discussed here today, and intelligence collection capabilities belong in the intelligence community. Having served in both law enforcement and intelligence communities, I'm uniquely qualified to bring the intelligence limited component back to the FBI that ties back to the legislative mandate of prosecuting and investigating criminals.
Okay. Last, I will end early, Mr. Chairman. You said in May of 2023, this is important to all of us because Elon Musk is playing such a major role in the government right now. You said Elon Musk cares about 2 things, your data and his money. Do you still stand by those words?
I don't have that entire quote, but that's what it says.
It was in you were angry because of endorsement of Governor DeSantis in Florida. And so you were defending Donald Trump. And so you criticized Elon Musk. And that was the context for it. And you said Elon Musk cares about 2 things, your data and his money. And it matters to us because he's playing such a major role in the government. And so I just wonder if you think that's true.
I don't have that full quote in front of me to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It sounds to me like my fellow senator is trying to get you to move FBI headquarters to Alabama. I have a full list of why it should move to Florida, and at the very least, maybe a Florida-Bama FBI HQ.
Florida-Bama.
Good people there, good recruits. We would fully support it.
Florida Georgia Line. It's a
Moving on
great
to a
song.
more serious matter, I know
Florida,
you would be
Bama.
shocked to learn this. As AG and as the chair of the Human Trafficking Council in Florida, we saw trafficking explode around the nation as a result of the Biden administration wide open borders. That's no surprise to anyone. But it might shock you to know that the National Human Trafficking Hotline that was funded by Congress to report tips to law enforcement in the last 4 years decided that they would no longer report tips to law enforcement, that they would take a more victim-centered approach. And this fell in line with a lot of what we saw over the last 4 years with people saying things like defund the police, abolish the police, nonsense policies that lead to an explosion in crime. You and I both understand that from our prior work experience.
Absolutely.
So there was a CEO that was put in charge in the last 4 years who said that that we cannot arrest our way out of the human trafficking problem. And I quote, "Trafficking in all its forms is the end result of inequities, abuses of power, and massive systemic and government failures." Do you believe that that is, in fact, the cause of human trafficking, or is it the result of evil, heinous humans that seek to profit off of others' pain?
The only people responsible for human trafficking are the criminals that intentionally traffic in humans, in children, and exploit them. And if I'm confirmed, it will be one of the top priorities to make sure that doesn't happen in this country and that we find the thousands of missing children that are still missing.
Amen.
I, along
Shout
with
to Kash
many
Patel.
of
Let's go.
the other attorneys general in this nation, in a bipartisan fashion, not only demanded that they begin reporting tips to law enforcement so that they could follow up and go after the traffickers so that they didn't continue to victimize others, but we also came to Congress and tried to get funding pulled, or at least a mandate that they do what they were created to do, and that is to report tips to law enforcement. Do I have your word moving forward as someone who understands the necessity to go after traffickers, to not only identify and rescue victims, but to ensure there aren't other victims? Do I have your word you'll work with me to come to Congress to make sure that that happens so that that can never happen again?
You do, Senator.
I'm proud to say in Florida, we were able, when we didn't get that result here in Congress, we started our own hotline. It's one of the first in the nation. And no surprise, we immediately rescued 10 victims of human trafficking that were being held by force in massage parlors. Reporting to law enforcement works. It allows us to rescue and save lives. And I know you will bring that mission focus back to the FBI.
Thank you, Senator. I will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want
this
to touch
lady.
on something that's
She's
been on
insufferable.
my mind lately.
She's from Hawaii, I
And
think?
I will tie it back to this hearing. We have seen a wholesale attack and assault in the past 2 weeks by President Trump on the value of diversity. Through his executive orders, he is seeking to dismantle over 60 years of work to promote equal opportunity in the federal government. His pronouncements have gotten so bad that apparently the Defense Intelligence Agency issued a memo 2 days ago that it would no longer commemorate Martin Luther King Day, Women's History Month, Holocaust Day of Remembrance, or Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
What does this have to do with
and
Kash
so
Patel
on.
and arresting people?
Why is there such a fear of people who are different? In Hawaii, we celebrate diversity and know
Oh,
that it gives
man.
us strength.
Is
It
this
is
lady
part of
serious?
what makes Hawaii and America great. Mr. Patel, earlier you shared some deplorable racist rhetoric that had been used against you. As someone who has also been the recipient of this sort of hateful language, I am deeply sympathetic. I also note, Mr. Patel, that in the past you have recognized the value of diversity. Back when you were in law school, you signed on to an amicus brief in the Grither case, supporting consideration of race in law school admissions.
What is it
I
you
hope
holding
that
behind
joining the Trump administration will not cause you to change your views on the value of diversity. Reflecting on this hearing, it is sad that we are considering Mr. Patel's nomination despite his gross inadequacy to do the job of FBI director fairly and objectively. Yet there is no question that much pressure has been brought to bear on my Republican colleagues to support this nomination. For example, a man named Mike Davis has been threatening my Republican colleagues. He said that this vote was a red line, that if Senate Republicans don't vote to confirm Mr. Patel,
That was Benny
his
Johnson.
organization, a group called the Article 3 Project, would make their lives a living hell. I certainly hope that all of us will base our vote on your nomination.
Benny
on the
Johnson
best
out here getting
interest
famous.
Who can work in the best interest of our country
Yeah, famous.
and not
Let's
based
go.
on this sort of pressure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to give you a chance to respond to this because I think my colleagues are misstating the law here. You can't authorize the release of your grand jury testimony. Only a court can do that. Is that right?
That's been my understanding.
Yeah, and you, I think you've stated that the best reflection and the most accurate version of your testimony is the transcript in the grand jury testimony that you're fine to be released, but the court has to go do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And it lasted like 3 or 4 days. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
I also want to, Senator Durbin's talked about, what your priority or your priorities will be. And I think your testimony has been that it'll be adherence to the Constitution and the people of the United States of America, right? You take that very seriously.
That's it. That's the only thing that matters.
Could you talk about maybe some other priorities. We talked initially in my first round about getting the FBI back to its core mission, which is to fight crime and not, sort of try to do the things that it's been doing the last 4 years. Talk about how you might bring that together.
So, Senator, I appreciate the question. It's something I wanted to address maybe 6 hours ago, so I appreciate the opportunity to do it now. Whether we prioritize going after violent crime and national security, we cannot defend against either of those successfully unless we go after the underlying criminal nexus there. And whether it's human trafficking, whether it's terrorism, whether it's opioids, and whether it's just outright gang violence, the intersection there is narco trafficking. It is the underlying underbelly, the evil, illegal underbelly of all those operations. And we have not prioritized, in my opinion, as a law enforcement agency, the collective power we can rain down on criminal narco trafficking networks. And ideally, if I'm confirmed, Senator, I would like to work with Attorney General Pam Bondi, if she can be confirmed, to set up regional drug interdiction task force where our local sheriff's offices, our local PDs, and our local precincts are folded in with the FBI on an information and authority sharing basis to take down the criminal networks. And the advice and consent process has been extremely informative to me. I do not know your jurisdictions as well as you all ever will. That's what makes this so critically important educational. I did not know that Memphis was the homicide capital of America per capita. I did not know that there was a corridor in Ohio that speaks to the human trafficking volume more so than any intersection in the country. That is what I will rely on your expertise across the aisle to fold in those resources to target those criminal active hotbeds. And I believe if we are successful in actually crippling the narco trafficking networks, we will see a decrease monumental in violent crime and at the same time protecting Americans' national security.
And maybe, just maybe, where you have a third of the personnel for the FBI here in Washington, D.C., maybe, just maybe, one of the reforms is to get more of those folks out into those areas across the country to go do that, right? That's what you're talking about.
I think so, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Was that the senator to his left? He's over checking for his
Mr. Patel, do you know any of
prescription
these five
meds.
individuals? Erica Knight, Tom Ferguson, Greg
Live on TV.
Menser, Steve Reese, or Carlos Fernandez?
Yes, Senator.
Who are they?
People I've worked with in the past at some point.
I'm told that those are the people that will be additional political appointees to help run the FBI. Is that correct?
That's news to me, Senator.
Under the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation since the reforms in the early 1970s, there's only been one political appointee. I'm told that these will be additional political appointees, 5 extra political appointees. Do you know if Reese or Fernandez are affiliated with SpaceX or Elon Musk?
I don't.
I'm told that they are affiliated with SpaceX and Elon Musk, and
Why does
he
this
had
matter?
influence in who will be placed around you as political appointees. Mr. Patel,
Okay.
did you see the President of the United States declassify the documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago?
Here we go with Cory Booker with this question again.
I witnessed the President of the United States issue a declassification order for documents.
That did not answer my question. Did you or did you not see the President of the United States declassify the documents that he was holding, the classified documents that were at Mar-a-Lago? And did you?
I don't know the answer to that question because I don't know what was fully found because the Justice Department hasn't made that public.
You claim publicly that you saw President Trump declassify documents. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator.
So you did indeed see President Trump declassify the documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago that he refused to turn over. Is that correct?
No, what I said, Senator, was I heard and witnessed the President issue a declassification order for a number of documents.
For the documents specifically that were at Mar-a-Lago?
When he issued that order, there was documents. I don't know what was found and what was not found at Mar-a-Lago. I wasn't there.
So this is the issue. The question is will you lie for the President of the United States? Would you lie for Donald Trump?
No.
This guy Cory Booker's
I
going
hear
in.
you saying no, but the best way to clarify that would be to testify, as you are allowed by law, upon what you said to the grand jury. Because that grand jury, as you just said to my colleague, 2 or 3 days of it was about this specific issue. And so as my time ends, Mr. Chairman, it would be utterly irresponsible for this committee to move forward with his nomination unless we know factually, which can be proven by looking at the documents that he's refusing to testify towards. It would be irresponsible for us to move forward if we do not know that the future head of the FBI would break the law and lie for the President of the United States. We can find that out factually if we had access to the testimony, or if he would tell us what he said to the grand jury, which by the law of the United States of America, he's allowed to, but he's refusing to do so.
I don't think
he's refusing the transparency that he claims to adhere to. He is refusing to be direct with the United States Senate. He's refusing to be transparent and put it all out there. Did he or did he not lie for the president? That is the question.
This guy's about to pop
Thank
a brain cell
you,
here.
Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. And thank you for your
Pop
patience
a blood vessel.
today. We do appreciate it. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman,
This guy's eating.
I put up the clip that showed me requesting the records for Epstein. That is, I put that up on social media just so we could clarify that issue. Mr. Patel, what I'd like to ask you about, you mentioned that Memphis is the homicide capital of the country. That concerns us. And we've recently had an issue where the FBI wanted to consolidate the Memphis and Knoxville offices into a Nashville office. And of course, this causes us some concern. And I would like to get your commitment that you will make certain that we have every resource we need in Memphis to deal with this issue, and that the FBI will be appropriately resourced in the state of Tennessee.
You absolutely will, Senator.
Thank you so much for that. And then we've had some talk today about DEI, and we've talked about this in this committee, and the emphasis the FBI put on DEI and things like counting Swifty bracelets and things of that nature, and not on investigations. And what we want to make certain is that we have qualified individuals who are going to stick to that core mission. And you have talked about that mission today, and thank you for being able to recite what it is. We appreciate that. And I want you to just talk a little bit about those first few actions that you can take to build back the recruiting and the training in order to accomplish that mission.
Absolutely, Senator. Quite simply, I know we have limited time, is that people who sign up to serve the FBI must meet the rigorous high standards, merits, and physical fitness standards, and those will not be changed.
So that will be a priority for you.
And I think people who want to join the FBI do so with the dedication to serve this country and an adherence to law enforcement. And we will allow those folks that graduate from the academy and enter the FBI to carry a gun and a badge in representation of this country to protect its citizens. And when we allow the good cops to be cops and put handcuffs on the bad guys, I think you will see an exponential increase in enrollment and how we keep people at the FBI.
And that is a day one item for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Patel, do you believe that background checks for firearm purchases are constitutional?
I don't know the in-depths of it, but I think that's what the Supreme Court has said, Senator.
So the word would be YES, yes. Can you say yes? Are background checks constitutional?
I can say whatever the Constitution and the Supreme Court ruled is the rule of the land.
And what is the law of the land at the moment?
I'm not an expert on state-by-state background checks.
You're going to be universal background checks. Well,
that's different.
I think actually your answer is pretty clear. Let me ask you another question. Do you believe that civilian ownership of machine guns are protected by the Second Amendment?
Universal background checks are different. That's not
I
what you
asked a
stated.
separate question. Do you believe civilian ownership of machine guns is protected by the Second Amendment?
Whatever the courts rule in regards to the Second Amendment is what is protected by the Second Amendment.
Yet another telling response, colleagues, on another important issue. We've all talked, both sides of the aisle, about our concern about gun violence in America. I raise these questions because of an association I can observe between Mr. Patel and Gun Owners of America, a group staunchly opposed to firearm regulation, a group that Mr. Patel addressed in August, and a group that in December issued a press release applauding his nomination to be FBI director. Gun Owners of America has taken extreme positions, including the position that all background checks are unconstitutional and that civilian ownership of machine guns is protected under the Second Amendment. Mr. Patel, let me remind you that as FBI director, you would oversee critical responsibilities related to firearm regulation, including administering the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Yes, it's constitutional. It's in place for a reason.
Yeah, these guys are getting
You would also
serious.
regulate the distribution of machine guns to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. Policies and programs in place for a reason. And given your hesitancy, given your answers, I'm concerned about your ability to do the job when it's not in alignment with groups like Gun Owners of America. Colleagues, we've been hearing a lot of partial responses and lack of recollections throughout the day, and I can't help but identify the pattern of Mr. Patel calling FBI leadership corrupt, labeling agents as gangsters, accusing them of being part of a criminal deep state conspiracy. We've heard of his experience with the J6 prison choir, a group of individuals convicted for their roles in the January 6th insurrection. We've heard his false claims that the U.S. had secured airspace permissions during a high-stakes SEAL team hostage rescue mission in Nigeria. I can go on and on. These positions are inconsistent with the role of FBI director, a position that demands independence, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to the rule of law. Mr. Patel, your loyalty to President Trump and the MAGA movement may score you points in some quarters, but they are certainly not the qualities necessary to serve as director of the FBI. And Mr. Chair, just in closing, I understand while I was out of the room earlier that Senator Tillis raised my name and attributed to a quote, bent the knee as part of my questioning earlier to me. And so for the record and for my colleague from North Carolina, I want to clarify that the bent the knee quote were not my words. I was quoting Mr. Patel as he appeared on the Sean Ryan show on September 2nd of 2024. And I'm happy to share a link, Senator Tillis, to clarify. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I don't want to belabor this, but it certainly would be of benefit to us if that grand jury testimony could be released. But my understanding is the Senator Whitehouse testimony point that you don't need you as a witness could reveal what you said. And I'm just suggesting you might give that some further thought. The second thing is that you have everybody who runs an agency has enormous responsibility for the people who work there. I happen to have an incredibly high opinion of the FBI. The first time I came to Washington as a boy, I remember the thrill I had going to the FBI headquarters. I thought it was a big deal that my senator then got me special tickets to go, and I've always admired them. There's a lot of apprehension there, and it's not just on this question of weaponization. There's a lot of disruption in a new administration. And if you've seen, the president announced an impoundment in effect. It's been rescinded by the courts. But we've received calls from folks in various agencies who we've worked with or seen over the years, and there's just an immense amount of insecurity. Do I have my job? Don't I have my job? And frankly, I think this is my point to the president. Chaos is one thing, but cruelty is another. And having people be really uncertain about do they have a job today or not and leaving them in limbo, I don't think is a good thing for morale. And I don't care whether it's a Democratic or Republican president. I'm just looking to you to assure me that the tradition that we've had anchored in the FBI since 1972, when it was politicized. I mean, J. Edgar Hoover went after Martin Luther King in a disgusting and despicable way. He went after some John Birch Society folks for their political beliefs in a disgusting and horrible way. And we have no political appointees over there. So it's going to be up to you to, I think, strengthen that tradition. And we heard about the political appointees who are over there now, or I guess they're not officially appointees, but they've been sent by the administration. You didn't know about it. But one of them is from SpaceX. And, you know, Elon Musk, he's a rich guy, but he has no authority other than what's delegated by the president, but he has no official authority. And why is it, you can't answer this, but do you want somebody like Elon Musk peering over your shoulder, telling you what to do about personnel?
No, the FBI must be independent.
Go kick him out. I mean, I'm with you on that. He has no basis. He has no reason to be there. There's some former FBI people. You'll pick the people that you want to listen to. You'll have to make the decisions. You'll be accountable to this committee. But no on Elon Musk. He's just a political crony who knows nothing about law enforcement. So thank you for that assurance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, when Mr. Booker was asking you questions in his first round, you said, Senator, the grand jury testimony is available to you. I encourage you to make it public. You also later said, or previously to Mr. Booker said, get my grand jury testimony. I asked the Department of Justice to make it public. I asked the Department of Justice to make it public. Do you stand by that testimony?
If that's what I said.
So you asked the Justice Department to make your grand jury testimony public?
At the time of my appearance in the grand jury.
Yeah. And who did you ask to do that?
The lawyers.
Mr. Chairman, since the witness has said that he encourages this testimony to be public, that he in fact asked the Justice Department to make it public, I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, if you and the ranking member would be willing to write to the court acknowledging the witness has asked for this to be public, supporting it being made public. I can't imagine there's a court in the land that would say no to a bipartisan request like that.
I won't tell you. Let me say something. I'm not going to take this out of your time. It's not directly answering your question, but I think it'd be significant what Richard Grinnell put on X. I testified in front of Jack Smith's grand jury, at Justice Department, and Jack Smith's prosecutor told me directly that I could not talk about my testimony or risk legal actions. Then he goes on to say that certain senators, I won't mention here, should, as those ask those lawyers why they instructed witnesses this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd welcome the chance to have Mr. Grinnell testify under oath as opposed to on X. But nevertheless, what I would ask, given that this witness has said he made the request, this witness has said he would like us to read the testimony, I would ask if you and Senator Durbin would be willing to make that request of the court.
I wouldn't answer your question without get all the background I need, considering the conversation between you two. I couldn't make that judgment now.
Yeah, I appreciate your consideration, Mr. Chairman. And the reason why I think it's so important is let's remind ourselves what those documents were in Mar-a-Lago.
It's like, nah,
according
bruh.
to the indictment, the classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. So testimony that goes to the care or lack of care, the truthfulness or lack of truthfulness of Mr. Patel would be directly relevant to whether he should be confirmed as FBI director, and those records are there for the asking. No court's going to turn us down. Mr. Patel may be, I don't know, but he may be the first nominee for FBI director in history who felt it necessary to plead the fifth.
Yeah.
To say that he wouldn't testify to a grand jury because it might incriminate him. Maybe the first nominee for FBI director ever to feel the necessity of pleading the fifth.
This guy's
Shouldn't
harping
we
on this.
ask for that testimony
Yeah.
when the
I was
witness
about to
himself
say,
says he would encourage it?
they really want this
Finally,
testimony, man.
I would just say we need to think about where we are in this moment. We have a new president. He's fired prosecutors who investigated him. He's investigating other prosecutors,
These
or his
people are
Department of Justice
scared,
is.
bro.
He's fired inspector generals who might hold him accountable. And this is just the start. And as FBI director nominee, he's chosen someone whose primary qualification, in my view, is his willingness to say yes when everyone else would say no to whatever the president wanted.
Yeah,
To
these
say
people are
whatever
scared.
he wanted, to do whatever he wanted. That's why he is sitting here. I mean, look at the people who held that job before Mr. Patel. The stature of the people that held that job. The qualifications of the people that held that job. And how can any of us think that his background, his qualifications hold a candle to the people who went before him? How did we get here where we are defending a nominee like this, who makes songs with convicts who attack law enforcement? How did we get here? And where are we going? History is littered with democracies that lost their freedoms.
What does this have
and
to do
didn't
with
notice
this
it while
man
it was
here?
happening.
Come on,
Let's
man.
not
Ask
be
him
one
the
of them.
questions.
Your time's up.
Right. Get this
Before
clown out of
Senator
here.
Tillis
I'm sorry.
ends this, I
Man.
want to put in the record
Cry it.
letter from the parents of Kayla Muller. Kayla
Kash
Muller.
Patel.
Mr. Patel met them through his role in the successful operation to track and kill ISIS leader al-Baghdadi. The terrorist, I'm quoting, the terrorist group ISIS kidnapped our daughter Kayla on August 2013. Any family who has lived through such an experience will know the value of dedicated, compassionate law enforcement officials. Because we have personal experience of his dedication, we know that Kash Patel is such a person. We continue to see in him a genuinely kind, thoughtful, action-oriented man who focuses on what is true and right and just. He loves our country and our citizens and wants the best for them all. He wants the country to do the best that it can. Without objection, I'll put their letter in the record. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, I think everything that I did to invest in knowing you better has been on display today. Congratulations. You've exhibited composure, knowledge of the subject matter that I think more than qualifies you for director of the FBI. You know, we seem to have the benefit of sort of a different view of looking at the history. I heard, I actually was supportive of Comey until I figured out that he was playing games. Maybe this is one of the people of great stature, but it's well known now that he did some things that seem to have a political tint to them. I voted for Christopher Wray. I think he's a good man, but I also think he oversaw a department that did bad things. And at the end of the day, that person has to own it, and you will too. It's probably going to disappoint the audience to hear what I'm about to say, those who are watching at home. But you may be surprised to know that most of us at this dais on both sides of the aisle like each other. Senator Schiff and I just met within the last week to talk about areas that we can work together on. Senator Padilla and I actually work together. We co-chair the bipartisan mental health caucus, and I believe it's actually one of the most important pieces of legislation we've done. I didn't get a whole lot of Republicans to vote for it, but a fair number. And this is working extraordinarily well. Would you commit to me to go into the Nix Center in West Virginia and just see how extraordinary this has come to be and how it hasn't resulted in a mass confiscation of guns? It hasn't resulted in a propagation of red flag laws. In fact, the plain text of the legislation is not allowing money to flow to states, unfortunately, including Florida, that we believe have not gotten the due process right quite yet so that we would actually fund red flag laws that make sense. This is what bipartisanship produces. Now, you're not going to see any bipartisanship in your confirmation. Look, we had Pam Bondi here, and we had people on this committee talking about a friendship or a friendly relationship
in the past. The fact is, it was a shirts and skins game. Blue voted no, red voted yes. It's got to be the same thing for your confirmation. But Mr. Patel, I tell you, it has been a distinct honor to do the work with you to get you ready for this hearing. You did all the work. I'm kind of like the person on the sideline giving you some suggestions, but you did an extraordinary job. And you're going to be held to a high standard. I hope you listen to, and if you don't remember it, listen again to what Senator Kennedy said. There are folks like us that are tired of the pendulum swinging back and forth. We want to be the Senate that confirms an FBI director, that rights the ship, shows consistent respect for the rule of law and the Constitution, consistent respect for all law enforcement officers, and I absolutely believe you're up to the task, and I look forward to supporting your nomination.
Thank you, Senator.
Before I close the meeting, you have anything you want to say? Nope. I've got something here that's directly related when in my opening statement, I said I want the members of this committee to think about something that's brand new. And it kind of deals with this whole exchange we had today in regard to the grand jury testimony. So I want to read, based upon whistleblower disclosures that I made today, it's clear how unfair and corrupt the Trump prosecution was, and that's created a little faith at best in the grand jury process. We shouldn't allow part of that corrupt process to be used by this committee against the nominee. An example, one document I made public today, DOJ officials literally concurred with Thibault to open the elector case against Trump, and that included a grand jury investigation. Jack Smith's lawfare efforts and its corrupt process should be what this committee investigates. Mr. Patel, thank you for your testimony today. Your family and friends who are here, I think you got to be very proud of him under these tough conditions because he got tough questions. I think you did very well, and your reputation leading up to and during this hearing, I think proves that you're a person that can stand a lot of heat, including a president's telling you how to do your job. If confirmed, you'll be in charge of one of the world's best law enforcement agencies at the time when it desperately needs strong changes. For everyone's information, written questions can be submitted for the record until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Mr. Patel, when you receive them, it's very important you get back to us just as fast as you can so we can set up the meetings that we have to go through to get you to the floor of the Senate. So return them to the committee as soon as possible. Mr. Patel, you are excused and the hearing is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there it is. Everyone's getting these 590s. It's crazy. Anyway, this broadcast has concluded. This was the ending of the hearing for today. I don't know if there's going to be another one. We kind of tapped in late.
Live coverage there.
Let's go see what RSBN has to say about this.
As a great patriot that he is, as he looks to be the top guy at the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And wow. Really some unfair lines of questioning, no doubt, from the Democrats speaking over him. Also really putting words in his mouth, but he was calm and composed and really a great lawyer as his background, but also someone who's been so involved in national intelligence really for the past 16 years. So, I mean, this is someone who clearly will be excellent as the FBI director and who wants to reform an agency that desperately needs that.
Exactly. We definitely need him at the FBI. Before we get to our sponsors, one final point here. For those of you that watched that entire hearing or saw specifically towards the end there, Mr. Cory Booker and Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Let's just put it this way. You could tell the hate and the vitriol that they had towards Kash Patel, which also Kash stands with President Trump and stands with we the people. So it's just, it's very ugly. And we don't like that, of course, as people. And hopefully the swamp will be drained. You know, what else, right?
Well, Senator Blackburn mentioned that too. She goes, my Democrat colleagues are clearly afraid of you for multiple reasons. And then she listed her reasons as to why he would make a great FBI director given his experience.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So we'll see how that goes. It's been quite the week here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll be live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Robert and I, Matthew Alvarez here, and we'll tell you more about that in just a minute. We do want to thank Colonial Metals Group for
Shout out to RSBN for this live broadcast. We're going to go see the beginning remarks of Kash Patel, and then we'll move on to the news about the flight over D.C. that a commercial airliner of 60 people went into a helicopter, or they collided with a military Black Hawk helicopter that was conducting a training operation over the Potomac River. Apparently, President Donald Trump gives his remarks about the incident. And then we'll look in a little bit to what Tulsi Gabbard's hearing was like. We'll check out her opening remarks, and then we will end it from there. So if anybody is interested in any of that, please kick back, relax. We're going to go check this out. If you're enjoying the video, please consider hitting the like, share, and the subscribe button. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. We're streaming live on X at KIWTB Gaming and on YouTube and Twitch at Kicking It with Timmy B. We got the opening remarks of Kash Patel. And real quick, I think Kash Patel did a great job. I'll give my last remarks after we go check out his opening speech here. This is Kash Patel. January 30th, 2025. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. Let's go.
About to give to the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. I do, Mr. Chairman. Okay. You may proceed.
Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin, and members of the Judiciary Committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. I must start with a word of prayer for the tragic accident that befell our nation last night, where we lost civilians and service members. I pray for their families. I pray for law enforcement and military personnel, and I pray for their souls, and hopefully God will find them peace in the near future. I'd like to welcome my father, Pramod, and my mother, Anjana, who are sitting here today. They traveled here to get here from India. My sister's also here, Nisha. She also traversed the oceans just to be with me here today. It means the world that you guys are here. Jesse Krishna. I wouldn't be here today without their guidance, their unwavering support, and their relentless love. When President Trump informed me of his intention to nominate me as the director of the FBI, I was deeply honored. Sitting here today, I carry not only the dreams of my parents, but also the hopes of millions of Americans who stand for justice, fairness, and the rule of law. My commitment to these principles is deeply rooted in my family's history, which has profoundly shaped my worldview. My father fled Idi Amin's genocidal dictatorship in Uganda, where 300,000 men, women, and children were killed based on their ethnicity, just because they happen to look like me. My mother is originally from Tanzania. She studied in India, as did my dad, and they were married there. They would later emigrate to New York, as the senator pointed out, where I was born, and we were raised in a household of my father's 7 siblings, their spouses, and at least half a dozen children. That's the only way we knew how to do things at the time, in the 70s and 80s, the Indian way. But we would soon learn the American way. These values have shaped and been the driving force of my career in 16 years of government service. Protecting the rights of the Constitution is of the utmost importance to me and has been every single time I've taken that oath of office. The recent terrorist attacks in New Orleans tragically claimed the lives of 14 innocent Americans and serve as a stark reminder that our national security is at threat, both internally and externally. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Justice, where I served, play a pivotal role in securing our freedoms and our safeties for American citizens. If confirmed as the next FBI director, I will remain focused on the FBI's core mission. That is to investigate fully wherever there is a constitutional factual basis to do so, and to never make a prosecutorial decision that is solely the providence of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General. For the first 8 years after law school, I served as a public defender, first for Miami-Dade County and later for the Southern District of Florida. During that time, I represented some pretty awful human beings charged with some pretty heinous crimes. But what I learned there was the core value that has been enshrined in me since, that due process must be provided without bias to all Americans. And if we cannot provide due process to the worst, then there can be no due process for anyone, and our constitutional republic fails. But I battled on that hill for that due process. I would later serve in the Obama Justice Department as a terrorism prosecutor in the National Security Division, where we successfully contributed to the prosecutions of terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and others. I was honored to receive the 2017 Assistant Attorney General's Award from Loretta Lynch for my work in helping the Ugandans bring members of Al-Shabaab to justice for murdering 74 innocent people, including an American. I would also receive the Human Intelligence Award from the intelligence community for related work on that mission. My experiences at the National Security Division and would later be followed by my experiences on the National Security Council as Senior Director for Counterterrorism, and later as a Deputy Director of National Intelligence responsible for the production, creation, and promulgation of the Presidential Daily Briefing, our nation's most sensitive classified information and secrets to protect our country. My time in the White House was preceded by my time right here in Congress as a staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, where I spearheaded the investigation that exposed serious FISA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act abuses by members of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That misconduct eroded the public trust in our FBI. The erosion of trust, as Chairman Grassley pointed out, is all too low today. 40% of Americans have trust in the FBI. In order to get it back, there's a twofold track, Senator. One, violent crime is exploding in this country, and we cannot afford them to allow it to run away. We must tackle violent crime. Just in 2023 alone, there was 100,000 rapes, 100,000 drug overdoses, and 17,000 homicides. The priority of the FBI, if I'm confirmed, will be to ensure that our communities are protected and safeguarded and our children have parks to play in and not needles to walk over. The way we do this, we let good cops be cops. We let law enforcement, and we provide them with the tools necessary and resources they need to get after violent crime. The second way we do this on equal track is aggressive constitutional oversight from Congress. The public trust can only be restored if there is full transparency, and I am committed to that full transparency. Members of Congress have unfortunately submitted hundreds of questions that have been unanswered by the FBI in recent times. That will not occur if I am confirmed. All appropriate requests for information will be responded to expeditiously and fully. I'm committed to working alongside the dedicated men and women of the FBI. They are our warriors of justice, and I will always have their backs because they have the backs of the American people. I look forward to answering your questions, and I want to take a moment to thank my family, my friends, people who traveled here, and my entire team that has made this day possible. God bless America, and I look forward to your questions.
Shout out to Kash Patel. I'll just say right from the jump, he seemed very, very professional. He seemed like he maintained his composure, and you could tell that he was getting some tough questions. You could tell he had like a slight reaction, but he did not break the composure where he just looked like an idiot. He looked very, very professional. Shout out to Kash Patel. I mean, you can tell if someone's squared away just by how they hold themselves. And you could tell that this guy holds himself with pride and respect. He wants to do this job. He actually wants to become the FBI director. He wants to help people. And it seems like he is very capable, qualified to be the FBI director. I can't wait to see him confirmed, see all the good stuff that he does for our great nation. It seems like he has a very interesting background, having two parents that are not from America, and you can see how they came together and then moved to America to be able to start over and have a new life. And then Kash Patel and his sister coming to the picture. So that's just pretty much the information just by him giving his speech and how he composes himself. That's what I got. I do find it very interesting that I forgot what senator mentioned the flight. I guess Senator Kash Patel went on some operation and brought somebody over international or over another country's airspace or something like that. And you hear Kash Patel's reaction to it. The senator pretty much was like, hey, you just did this. You did this move. You took this person, flew them over another country's airspace and endangering the men and women who were operating this vehicle and helped get this individual. He was endangering their lives by doing it. And then he goes, who were these people that went on this operation with him, and who was the person? And he said that he knew all of those people. He wasn't endangering anybody's life, and something like that. Everybody's all in. I could just only imagine, but I find it interesting that he went on an operation like that. I'll have to pull more up on that for tomorrow's Friday broadcast, but I find that very interesting, and those are just my thoughts. If he did that, if he went on this mission to go save someone's life that he knew, you could see it both sides of like, wow, you use all these assets, endanger all these people to get this person, but everybody knew what they were doing for a bigger purpose. And, like the other side is everyone knew what they were doing, for a bigger purpose, is to retrieve this person and to bring them back. I don't know the whole story about that, and we're going to get more, but I just heard that during this briefing or this hearing. So I'm very intrigued. So that's what I think about it. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. We just checked out Kash Patel's Senate confirmation hearing to be FBI director. If there's more of it, I'll get you more information, but we'll definitely be tapping in on this mission that that Kash Patel went on. So anyway, hit the like, share, and the subscribe button. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. So